Let's go. Welcome to the fourth episode of our WVDTechFest podcast. We have created this format to present you our valuable community speakers and let them explain what you can expect from their session. We are the largest WVD event out there with 24 speakers from 8 countries, and this event is intended to provide you with all the theoretical and practical knowledge to become a WVD rockstar. Let me welcome our very special guest of today, Shabaz Darr from the UK. Hi Shabaz, how are you doing?
Hi Patrick, yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, doing good. How are you?
I'm also fine, thank you very much. Perfect. Can you describe our viewers a bit more about yourself and what you do in the community?
Yeah, sure. So as Patrick mentioned, my name is Shabaz Darr. I'm obviously reside in the UK. I work for a net company who are, again, they're a Danish-based company, but in the UK. So I'm a senior infrastructure consultant. And with regards to the community, I do a number of different things. I have kind of a blog that I try to update at least once or twice a month. And I blog mainly about my own experiences around certain projects that I'm doing or technologies that I'm looking at. I also have a YouTube channel called I Am IT Geek, and I do regular weekly videos. And I've got a couple of started kind of doing it in October, November time. And I'm mainly focused on identity at the moment. So I did a lot about Azure MFA, identity access in Azure, and I've recently started a series around Veeam integration with Microsoft Cloud as well. And I'm also the co-manager of a new user group which we're starting in Bradford. So Bradford is a little city or little town. No, it's a city. It's a city. It's a city in the north of Yorkshire. The west of Yorkshire, the north of the UK. So there's myself and a couple of my colleagues, Imran Rashid, who you might have heard of. He does the Azure Crazy website. So and Mohammed Sajid, we're starting a user group. Funnily enough, in February is going to be our first event. So again, that's going to be a community sort of user group, at the moment virtual, and it's all going to be around cloud. So we're going to be agnostic, AWS, Microsoft, Google, Alibaba if you do use that. But so I'm very active on Twitter as well. So they're kind of my community activities, as well as obviously presenting, which is why we're speaking.
Perfect, great. Yeah, we are really happy to have you. And yeah, it's the very first WVDTechFest ever happening, and like I said, we have a very strong community lineup, and you are part of that, and we are very proud to have you here, and especially also due to your session title, Lessons Learned from the Battlefield. And when it comes to WVD, that sounds like you have helped your clients out of very difficult situations already, and I guess it was a very difficult year last year when we reflect 2020, right?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, the lessons from the battlefield, WVD in a pandemic, and Windows Virtual Desktop has had a lot of coverage, especially since essentially the last 12 months with the COVID-19 pandemic. And my sort of presentation is essentially based around my own experiences right at the beginning of the pandemic. So in the UK, as I was with most of Europe, I suppose, right towards the end of March, beginning of April, a lot of clients were worried because there was impending lockdowns throughout the UK and through Europe and the world. And essentially, at the time, I was tasked with helping a number of different clients, some in healthcare, some in manufacturing. And the problem was nobody was prepared to send their staff home. They didn't have any remote working, and they had different options around what they could use. And I was obviously tasked through my work to help them with those options. So it's the present. I've almost kind of given you my introduction on the presentation, but so I won't say any more around that. But yeah, essentially, it's my experiences of deploying WVD, some of the difficulties at the time, and some of the kind of different configurations we put in place. Why customers chose WVD at the time. What was the aspect of WVD that they preferred over other certain aspects. So that I said, the real use cases that I personally experienced, and that's where it comes. The lessons I learned from them, and those lessons I'm using in my deployments that I do now. So yeah, I've done it a few times in local user groups, and it's got really good feedback. So I thought, the first ever such a big Windows Virtual Desktop event, I thought it was quite apt to present this there as well.
Yeah, perfect, absolutely. And this is also what fascinates me the most when I read your session title or the description, what we will also post on the WVDTechFest website so that you can prepare yourself what you can expect from Shabaz's session as well, is that he really talks honestly, or that you, Shabaz, talk very honestly about what you see during this time and how WVD can help customers to get faster to pace to work again, to enable remote workers which aren't or weren't remote workers before to get started with a real Windows 10 experience while having all of their applications on board.
And you know, the title says lessons learned. When you learn a lesson, it implies that you make a mistake. I made mistakes. You know, one thing that you might not know is I worked on the actual one of the first. I think it was actually the third deployment of WVD in the UK. Mm-hmm. So that was the third deployment of WVD in any of the UK that I actually implemented that. Like I said, it was for a healthcare client at the time, and you know, Microsoft were involved, and I made mistakes. We all make mistakes. You know, I have a bit of a motto I have is I'll make a mistake once, like I'm a human, but I'll damn sure not make it again. I make sure I learn from those mistakes. And I'm very open about, within my presentation, very open about the mistakes that I made and how I learned from that. And I think that's quite important, that I would like people to understand that is, you know, it's okay to make mistakes. That is how you grow and that's how you learn. And like I said, that I am quite open in my presentation around some of the issues I had and what I was at fault for and other difficulties.
And this is what I really love when I speak to community members like you, Shabaz, honestly, because when we have a lot of marketing sometimes, we have a lot of arguments which are nice to have or which motivate us to get used to a product. But I think the community which has been built around Windows Virtual Desktop and people like you, for example, that really help to get an impression that we're not talking just marketing blah, 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 if I say it like this. It's something a techie talks to another techie. This is what we take care of at the WVDTechFest as well, and why I recommend all of you to connect with Shabaz as well, because I think it's very important to stay connected, talk about difficulties you have, and make mistakes. The product is very young, and I think you can confirm, Shabaz, that's totally human here.
Of course, yeah, and the beauty of it is that you mentioned it's a very young product. What is it? Was it 12 months a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a few weeks ago? It was 12 months old. But it's come so far. I mean, when I deployed it, it was in the fall version, so it was all through PowerShell. Mm-hmm. And now it's all already, you can do it all through the portal, and it's come so far. And even at the time when it was through PowerShell, it was still really quick to deploy. So it's a very newish product for Microsoft, but it's still such an amazing product, and they've put a lot of development into it. And that's what I love about it. It's always, every week I'm reading new improvements, you know, new integrations. I think Intune integration was recently released, and that's what I love about this product in particular. It's always something new and something improving it. Not something new that just doesn't mean anything. It's a new, and it's improving the product and making it easier for us techies to deploy it, and it's giving our customers and clients an advantage and a benefit from using it.
Absolutely. And what I really like as well is that Microsoft listens to its customers, listens to the community. Yeah. And you see that in every user group we have, we're organizing most likely 1 or 2 global black belts are most likely in these meetings, helping also the community to answer questions. And this is really unique when you see Microsoft as a large enterprise here.
Very much so, yeah. And that feedback's key. Because like you said, at the end of the day, it's people like yourself and me and obviously the listeners that are deploying this and using this day in, day out. If they don't like something about the product, it's important to understand what it is. And because the chances are there'll be more than them that just don't like it. Or if it's something they feel is missing. And yeah, you know, it's good that the vendors like Microsoft, you know, they have these forums, like user groups. They have people from Microsoft on these user groups, like the black belts that you mentioned. And it's great that they're taking that feedback and implementing it.
Absolutely. And for somebody who really starts with WVD, or like you said, when you are in a pandemic and you need to get started and enable your customer to use Windows Virtual Desktop or any kind of computing service in the cloud, some people ask me already, yeah, but it's just WVD. And what I say to my customers, and especially to my colleagues as well, it's much more. When you start with WVD, you learn so much about storage, first of all. It continues with image management, automation, whatever you need. How do you experience that, Shabaz?
So again, this is a lot of my, so where I'm based now at Net Company, I'm sort of the WVD expert, so I'm the SME around that. And what I'm trying to explain to people is WVD as a technology, it's great, but there's so many other aspects you need to understand. It's not just about the actual host pools or, you know, the workspaces. Security, you need to understand your security, because multi-factor authentication, identity management, you know, the licensing, you know, is there going to be on-premises integration? You know, is that was again, keep on giving things away, but that's going to be my talk. On-premises integration is key for a lot of medium to small businesses, because a lot of people have this huge on-premises footprint. They're not quite in the cloud. They might have Microsoft, they might have Exchange Online, but as far as infrastructure goes, because that's what WVD is essentially, they might not have that. So that on-premises integration, how are you going to do that? Are you going to put an NVM? Are you going to put a network device like a firewall, virtual firewall in? Or are you going to use the Azure native firewall? There's some network stuff to think about. You mentioned storage. You know, are you going to go with Azure files? Or are you going to go with Azure NetApp files? Because, you know, you may need enterprise level storage. If you automate, if you need to scale out quickly, can Azure files handle that when you're talking, you know, tens of thousands of users at a time? There's so many aspects to it, and until you actually get deep into it, you know, you don't even think about stuff like that. But there's so much to it, of course.
Absolutely. But I have a personal question now, Shabaz. When we talk in combination with WVD, we are talking so much about the service and how it excites us. But what feature, or what is the feature that fascinates you the most when we are talking about WVD?
I suppose with a lot of the deployments at the beginning that I did, the biggest thing was time. Companies did not have the time, and in a matter of weeks, I had to turn around a lot of these productions and these implementations. Mm-hmm. The fact it's so simple to scale in, scale out, deploy a host pool, and I just love the speed at which you can deploy services with WVD. And that might be a general Azure thing, I suppose, but you know, within hours you can deploy WVD, and I just find the management of it so easy and straightforward. And I think for someone who's coming new into WVD, it'd be very easy enough to pick up. So yeah, I like the ease at which and the speed at which you can deploy it. That's probably my most favorite thing about it.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, when you ask me, or I get often asked, and since a few weeks I have a new favorite feature. It's a screen capture protection, to be honest, and I have a very funny story to share regarding this, because I did quite a lot user group meetups and sessions at user groups about MSI XFAttach and so on. And I have enabled screen capture protection actually to present that to my clients as well as a small side gag. And I was wondering during the first 5 minutes I was presenting that nobody was able to see anything. Of course, screen capture protection was enabled while I'm sharing the screen. So you can see that became my new favorite feature of WVD, actually.
That's a great story.
That's also something, a lessons learned from my side. Yeah. And I can tell you, I'm not the only one.
No, I can imagine. It sounds like... yeah, that's amazing.
That's fantastic. Perfect. Shabaz, I have one more question left for you. And can you tell our viewers why they should attend to the WVDTechFest happening next month?
So, of course, yeah. I think you've mentioned a few times, you know, this basically you have probably some of the best experts around WVD presenting. It's the first ever event of this size dedicated to Windows Virtual Desktop. You know, very often you have Azure or Microsoft Cloud or 365 based sort of events, but this is the first dedicated to Windows Virtual Desktop. I'm always a believer in like the first time of doing anything, and I think saying that you were able to attend the first ever Windows Virtual Desktop Tech Fest would be quite a big thing, you know. When in 10 years' time people ask you where were you at the first Windows Virtual Desktop Tech Fest, you know, you can say you were there. And it's just going to be an amazing event. A lot of information, a lot of content, and some really great people who are presenting. I'm very honoured, if I'm honest with you, so I've applied for a few different sessions at some different user groups and different ones. When this one came through, I was so excited, just because it was the first ever Tech Fest. I thought I'd really love to say I presented at the first ever WVD Tech Fest, and I'm really honoured and thankful for being chosen. I'm really looking forward to it.
And we are very happy to have you as well, Shabaz. Really,
no, thank you
very much.
Appreciate that.
Perfect. And also thank you very much for attending to today's podcast episode. It's really a pleasure to have you.
I thank you very much, and I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Perfect. Awesome. And if you guys out there want to know more about the great speakers or want to know more about Shabaz, we will link down in the comments below Shabaz's contact details, his Twitter account, and all the social media contacts where you can reach him. And yeah, also the link where you can register for the WVD TechFest happening on the 25th of February this year. So thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Shabaz, again, and take care, everyone.
Bye.